Good morning. I hope you're having a great week. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. And um, I wanted to share just a little bit of an insight I'm having for a moment. You know, we really discount knowledge and growth in many ways. In our society or our culture, we're really looking for things like, what you look like, what you own, how much money you have, how successful you are. We really look at these as the marks of a life well lived or success. And it's interesting because the more you study Abraham or a lot of the spiritual mechanisms we do here, the truth is the growth and the learning and knowledge and expansion we gain is the most important thing and really why we're here. When you expand this idea of yourself as being, one human to an eternal being that's just sort of here to play a game, if you will, to learn about your own personal preferences, because when you're spiritual, we're all kind of combined because we're vibrational. So we don't have the space in between us. We don't have time, which is eternity expanded with space. So everything always is as it is, and we're kind of all collapsed on top of each other. So being able to come to this physical realm, we get our own body, we get to separate, we get to see what do I like versus what everything else likes. As long as I'm swimming in a soup of knowing everything with everyone, I'm not even going to really know that I have an individual self or individual ideas about what I want. So what a cool game we get to come here and play. We're so used to it being about proving ourselves or heaven versus hell. I think we think that gives us some kind of purpose. And it is a shift into, I'm just here to have fun and I'm just here to grow and learn. We know nothing goes with us. You can't keep your good looks. You can't keep your money. Like, you're going to age. You're going to leave it all here. Those are all things that are part of this game. It's the learning and knowledge that is actually the real boon. And I'm seeing that in a new way because I've started I started at a new job this week, but it's kind of an old job because I was there before and I had this rule: don't go back from where you came from, always move forward. And it has been so amazing. I'm so happy. I love it so much. But this initial insight I'm getting is so many of the people I worked with are still there, which is part of the reason I wanted to go back, because I love them and I want to work with them. But what's interesting is it's been 2 years and they sound exactly the same as when I left. And it's a very negative tune that happens. And a lot of that, I think, side note, in a retail environment has to do with the store. I think there's a vibrational energy that collects in a space that can impact people when they come in. You have to be bigger and stronger than that energy. And there's just been so much negativity for so long. I think it's just kind of a vibe there. But it's really interesting to come back 2 years later and these people are saying the same thing they were when I left. Well, when I left, I'd let it get to me. I was part of the negative tune, and I don't like to stay anywhere where I feel like I'm becoming toxic or not positive for the space. And a lot of things that happened, and I'd taken them personally. So, part of me was like, well, I should have just stayed. Why would I go somewhere else for 2 years? I could have been promoted. I'd be making more money, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm seeing and working with people that I really care about that are really still unhappy there 2 years later. And I'm realizing, no, actually what I did was brilliant because I didn't stay and keep repeating and singing the same song and living it. I went somewhere, got new perspective, and realized how great it was. And it was the contrast by going somewhere else. Now, of course, there's plenty of places you could go that might be better than this work environment. But for me and where I'm at in my journey, the places I went were worse in the sense of feeling loved, or the sense of opportunity and autonomy and the ability to learn and grow and feel useful and just really feel like an engaged professional at my work and feel respected and cared about. I was in some pretty dehumanizing environments the last couple of years. But how cool to be able to return to where I was with this new perspective. And now I can see it differently. And they're looking at me and they're saying, this place is better than somewhere else. I thought it was the worst thing ever. And it's catching them and making them realize a little bit, because I'm providing a little bit of contrast by just saying how great it is there, but they have to go live it for themselves, right? Words don't teach, life experience, only life experience teaches. And I wouldn't have listened to a positive Polly when I left a couple of years ago. I was feeling negative. But I'm realizing that going away getting new perspective was so powerful. And then coming back and having that contrast, I can see this environment in a whole new way. I can navigate it in a whole new way and have a different level of power and knowing. Whereas my peers have literally stayed in the same place for 2 years and are saying and complaining about the exact same thing. And I can see how that is impacting their life. It's holding them in a spot. It'd be so much better if they left. Go have some new stuff happen to you, get some perspective, and then you can come back and feel differently, or you'll find a new home that's awesome. It's reminding me of The Alchemist. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's a really cool little book. I have it somewhere. I was like, I should read part of that on this channel. But it's a story about this. It's like the hero's journey, right? And there's always this returning home in the hero's journey. But he's a shepherd, the character in The Alchemist, and he has a dream that he's supposed to find this treasure. And so he leaves his sheep and goes out on this whole big journey to find his treasure. And it's a very cool journey, and a lot of things happen to him, and obviously he grows and changes. But spoiler alert, scoot over this if you want to read it. But essentially in the end, he learns that the treasure that he's supposed to receive was buried right below him when he had the dream in his original home. And there's this beautiful thing, and it's always stuck with me because I have done a lot of coming home over the last 5 years in many ways. And this year, like I've said, is going to be similar, but in a different ways, because there's a lot of layers to that coming home prodigal son metaphor. It can be a place, it can be people, it can be professional, and it can be relationships. But realizing that there's something where you started, something at home that is extremely valuable that you couldn't see or you couldn't access until you went away and then came back. There's something in this. This is a really big, cool principle. So I just wanted to share that because I think so often we can question ourselves. We can say, why did I leave? I should be back where I was. Or we can say, should I leave and go somewhere else, right? Or there's so many ways that we can come at this and feel like we're in the wrong with where we're at. And we don't view gaining knowledge and experience as the asset. But when you reframe the purpose of life as coming here to gain knowledge and expansion, it changes it, right? We're not here for riches on this planet. We are here for riches in the spiritual realm. We are building and expanding the spiritual space, building up our riches in heaven, regardless of whether we experience them on this planet. Now, of course, we're here because we want to pull that in here. But how cool is it that it's really just about the learning and expansion? So wherever you are and whatever you're going through, you're learning and you're gaining new perspective. And if you feel like you're really stuck somewhere and repeating the same song, then I would say make a change and go somewhere and get a new perspective, and don't beat yourself up. Don't say, I'm speaking to myself now, I guess, I could have been making more money, or I should have stayed there, or because I'm realizing the knowledge I gained was a key component of me being able to thrive and grow in that environment. It served me more than staying there would have served me, because I would have gotten to be right about how I had it, right? That this place was bad, or I'm being picked on, or this person's wrong. And I've just realized it's none of that. It's not personal. People are just running a business. They're doing the best they can. And there's a lot of really good things about this environment. It's easy for me to focus on the positive because of the contrast that I've gained. Was it easy to gain that contrast? No, it was a pretty hard experience. But it's making my current experience so much better that I now realize why it was the path of least resistance that my inner being took me on to get where I want to go. And it's all about being able to be positive about who you're around and where you're at. So there was a gem for me back right at home in this home, but I couldn't know that it was there until I went on this long journey, just like that allegory in The Alchemist. So you're going to find yourself in spaces like this. We all go through it. It's part of life. We're always returning home, leaving somewhere, coming back. And I'm realizing it's not about saying, don't ever go back, or don't ever leave, or make sure you leave, or make sure you go back. It's not that. It's trusting the process and learning to let your inner being guide you. And there's a perfect timing to these things, and everything is serving us. And the knowledge and learning gets to be enough. We don't have that as purposeful, just learning. We think it's wasted time. I should have been earning money or gaining something, right? But the learning is an asset, that is a currency. And it's not just a currency, knowledge and learning and growth and expansion. It is an eternal currency. I can't take money with me when I go. I can take all of my learning and knowledge and expansion that I'm gaining. And isn't that really cool? That's the one thing we get to take with us when we go. And yet we discount it here. So it's time to elevate that learning and knowledge as the most impactful eternal spiritual currency. All right, that's my rant for the morning. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you so much. Have a great weekend.